And this is ancient lineage, little plastic medicine grinder from China. Very old, like at least 50 years, if not perhaps 100. Rinpoche got it from his teacher. Okay, you are live. Hello, guys. We're making magic. Because you always need more magic in your life. Otherwise, it gets all solid and nasty. See, that's the problem with the bardo. The gap between lives. If you don't know where you are, you start solidifying it and it gets all nasty. Same with dream time. You ever had a period where it gets all nasty on you? All the dreams are things that for you symbolize ick. Molly, did you strain the saffron water? Good for you. Every so often someone doesn't and I get a clog in my bumpa. You don't want cloggy bumpas. Oh, we're dead. Thank you. We're just setting up here. But because we're scheduled on a certain time, our time slot goes away if I don't turn it on. So you get to see me fumbling around making magic before we start. Audibility is not perfect. I wonder what Jenya meant by that. Audibility, yes. Spelling. Okay, you're closing. And we go to stop that. Here. Yay. So the first thing, spirit offerings. I need 2 local volunteers. Well, come on, don't all jump up suddenly. You and you. So you can sit there for a moment. I'll go like this when it's time for you to do it. See these 2 plates? So what you 2 are going to do is each of you is going to take one of those plates. You're going to go back outside and you're going to split up and go in opposite directions. Kind of going this way in the back and that way in the back. And you're going to look around for the land spirits. When you spot where they are, they're all over the place, but there will be certain places that have more of them than other places. How you recognize that? We don't have a kid to show you here. Anybody pre-adolescent? It wears off when you're about 14. You got interested in other stuff and you no longer spend your time looking at magic, so you forget how to see it. Because you're too busy chasing other kids who are your age. I was going to say too busy chasing tail. And that's probably a better way to put it because, not to determine what you're going to be chasing. The point here I'm making is that this magic site that allows you to see land spirits, all the little ones have it. You ask them which place in the garden has a name if they play there a lot. And they'll tell you, oh, well, that's called the old fallen log. And that's called the oak tree, but it's capitalized. That's where the land spirits are. It's got more placeness than other places. So as adults, you just go look around for some place you would have named as a little kid if you played there every day. And that's where the land spirits are. Then keeping a good hold on the cup and plate. You toss the contents up in the air. Do not let go of the cup and plate. Just the contents up in the air. We lost Granny's china going sailing over the trees once doing this. Never did see it again. Upstate New York, that was. Host was really upset. He didn't understand to keep a hold of the plate and cup, and it got grabbed. They were hungry there. So anyway, you go toss the contents, and then you can bring the plates back and just set them down somewhere in the back. Does this make sense? And I'll signal to you when it's time. Humbalame Sanje Rimboche. Chumbalame Sanje Rimboche. Drumbalame Gedun Rimboche. Jamne Kunjok Sumla Chopabu. Humbalame Sanje Rimboche. Dumbalame Gedun Rimboche. Chamne Kunchok Sumla Chopabu. Tombalame Sanje Rimboche. Tombalame Tamcho Rimboche. Tombalame Gedun Rimboche. Jamne Kunjok Sumla Chopabu. You Derak Neda Chorche Allah Je se pucho puldengo we Nam Jor La Sunang Drupo Dang Sanje Tenpe Jepe Trinle Zo Chinam Chu Chang Solwa Debe Tu Nagso Gon Lene Pe Sapso Su Nedang Ulpan Tapsu Shewa Dang Chudang Tashi Pilwe Zedu. Got him on the first try. Okay, that's the rest of them. And like any practice, in all of Dharma, there's only two teachings. One teaching, the union of bodhicitta and sunyata. Taking refuge, this is sunyata. And open-hearted great-heartedness, this is bodhicitta. They come together in the form of Guru Yoga, where all living beings of the three realms for which you experience great-hearted open-heartedness arise as all Buddhas of the four times, which are your refuge. So no separation there. So that's this. Chuku kunuzong mogomboy, dorji sempa garab dorji dang. Siri singe bardo shin labde, dedam abzan tata tusum chi. Zog chen jupe lama la solwa deb. Ergin pema junila solwa deb. Dorji chang chitilo narudang, marpa mila gompo tatsapa. Na pupadang paldendrupa suk. Kargil lama namla solua de. O chen lama namla solua de. True chen lama namla solua de. Kaginwari lama namla solua de. Shakya lama namla solua de. Nyandu dang yundren lama namla solua de. Pakondu jang dang yerme pa. Gun garab dorjishin truck pa. Jeti dang nisume pai. Palamanam che tente. Chong. So let me talk to you a little bit about death. Are you at all familiar with the four turning minds? Precious human rebirth, which just means, what does it mean to be fully human? All the way. Not too crazy to think straight. Not too sick to function. To have the full gamut of human opportunity. Both inner working well enough and outer working well enough. You could be the healthiest, sanest person in the world, but you're born female in Afghanistan. Split. You're never going to get to hear the Dharma. You don't have any choice where to live, what to do with your life, who to marry. There you are. Without the full range of human experience available to you. Not a full human rebirth. Partial. Get born as a slave in some country that still keeps them. Like Louisiana. You're 14, you get busted for something you didn't do. You're going to be working on the chain gang the rest of your life. You're a slave. Yeah, that happens here. It's very easy to miss the full possibility of human rebirth and get a partial. So there's no guarantee you're going to come back with the leisure, intelligence, and opportunities you have this time. And this time wasn't perfect, was it? You had to overcome all sorts of weird shit. But you could, because you were smart enough to overcome the whatever, or healthy enough to survive it. What if you weren't? Also be aware that this precious human experience, you could lose it tomorrow. Wrong place, wrong time. Busted for something you didn't do. 20 years in jail. Oops, there it goes. Pregnant. Didn't mean to be. Somebody raped you on a dark night. Oops, now you're either raising a baby or maybe dying. Oops. Do you see? You don't even have to do something wrong to lose it. It just sometimes happens with karma. So while you've got it, pay attention to your choices, because boy, if you got a lot of them. Pay attention to the ones that are going to be useful, not just today. I'm going to go get me a beer. That's going to make me feel better. But long range, tomorrow, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, there is a retreat that is given, of which this teaching is a small piece of, which involves remembering your past lives. Once you have a long body perspective, a lot of what I'm saying will make more sense. How you got where you are. Why you're overcoming the shit you're overcoming this time instead of different shit that somebody else is overcoming. Why you have the distractions internally that you have this time. How it happened. What to do about it. All starts making sense once your linear memory goes back a couple of thousand years. So I'm going to recommend that retreat if any of you ever get capable of doing the work of it. You got to have a few skills to make it work. So it's like not the first retreat you make. This, however, can be. Everybody dies. You are clear that you're going to die, right? There's nobody who's got a doubt that at some point, somewhen, they're going to croak. Might be tomorrow. Might be in 50 years. Well, I don't have 50, but you might. You're young. Hell, the next head cold I get could take me out. Could take you out, too. You never know. There's weird shit out there to catch. Knowing this, that you will die, learning how. So the first part, I want to talk you through it while you take notes so that you can practice this at home. The second part, which is about a few minutes, I want to take you on a dreamscape, a guided fantasy using a Lakota method. See, with the Tibetan method, I would teach this to you 50 times. And then it would go in nicely and you'd remember it. Have you got time for that? I don't have time for that. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to bring in a Lakota method that makes it go in deep the first time, using what's called a drum journey that I learned from Shar Sundust, who was a Lakota shaman. So the first thing is, so you can take some notes. When you're dying, there's a process. If you are suddenly run over by a truck or struck by lightning, you're not going to go through this process in any reasonable, coherent manner. But if you're going to die of illness, which most people actually do, more than 50%, they get sick and die. It might be a short illness, a long illness, but most people die with a little bit of slowness. Even if they get hit by a truck, they die a few days later. So I want you to recognize the process that you're dying so that even if your family lies to you, they won't fool you. Because people have a bad habit around here of not telling people they're dying, which is the meanest thing I can think of. But they do that. Indians too. Tibetans have a different take on it. They think that's really cruel. Not to let a person know what's going on so that they can actually do it nicely and to lie to them. But the Indians think it's kind to lie to them. So you'll get even a few Indian-raised Tibetans who'll do that. Don't do that. If you care about your family member, tell them what's going on and hope that somebody will tell you. The first thing that you will experience is weakness and difficulty moving. This can start several weeks before the end of breathing. Harder to get up. It's almost as if you are heavier and heavier, or gravity is increasing on you. That's the sensation. and it increases until you cannot get up by your own force. Someone could sit you up, and you can still talk usually at this point, and you can ask them to sit you up or to turn you in position. Eventually, you don't even have the muscle strength to talk. This is the absorption of the earth element. After the earth element, the water element absorbs. Earth absorbs into water. Water absorbs into fire. Fire absorbs into air. Air absorbs into space. You can write this down so you have the order of the elements. Earth, water, fire, air, space. When water element absorbs, you get dry mouth. You'll see often when people are in the process of dying, say a few days before, they look like they've got really chapped lips. You'll often see this unless people are constantly, putting something on them for them. You dry, the mucosa dries out. You give them ice chips for comfort, because it's hard to swallow at this point as the water element is absorbing. When the fire element absorbs, you start cooling. Best is if the feet cool first. Do not put a hot pack on a dying person's feet because their feet are cold. Let the temperature leave from the body up, from the bottom up. Usually the feet cool, and slowly the lower legs, and then it comes in from the hands. And the last place to cool is the trunk, sometimes the head. This is the fire element absorbing, and you'll feel it. You'll feel cold, and then you'll stop feeling the difference between heat and cold. When you start feeling your feet get cold when you're dying, don't try to fix it. Let them cool. It's a really good sign. You do not want to fall out the bottoms of your feet, which is what happens when the feet are the last things to cool. That's a very bad sign for your rebirth. It's the effect that has on your channel pattern is unfortunate. It's one of those accidents that happens. Eventually, the air element starts absorbing. You don't usually feel air hunger here. However, you'll hear the person's breathing go into different patterns. Shane strokes is a common one, where they'll take a deep breath and then slower, 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 stop for a while. Deep breath, slower, 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 stop for a while. And at one point, they stop for a while and don't start up again. As these things are happening, you will also have internal experiences. So you will feel the heaviness of the earth element. And it's warm and heavy. It's like those of you who like sleeping in a weighted blanket will probably enjoy this. Take the pleasure of it. Weighted blanket, folks. It feels like you're under a weighted blanket more and more and more and more. When the water element absorbs, you feel dry mouth more than thirst. Your body doesn't really want to rehydrate. It's closing down, but the mouth is dry. If you're looking after someone, yes, you moisten their lips. You give them a little bit of an ice chip or something to moisten, or there's little lozenges you give them for comfort only. You're not trying to rehydrate. You're not sticking an IV in and trying to mess with this. If somebody's dying, let them go in the natural way. Don't stick the IV in and, try to rehydrate someone whose water element is absorbing. That's just going to throw the balance off and mess up their concentration. When the fire element absorbs, you're going to start feeling cold, and then you won't feel cold anymore. There's also visions that will go with this. You will hear, when the earth element absorbs, you will hear the sound that happens just before an earthquake. It's almost a silence, but it's a very loud silence. It's very hard to describe, but if you're ever in an earthquake and you notice the sound that doesn't happen just before the earthquake, that's what it sounds like. Visually, it's just dark in a comforting, blankety way. When the water element absorbs, you hear like rushing rivers, like flushing toilets. It's very loud. And incidentally, in the birth process, this happens again in reverse order. If any of you remember being born, you're going to remember some of these visions. The whooshing is loud, and you see something that looks like you're looking through a shimmering waterfall or a mirage. Bright, almost blue, white, clear. It's unmistakable. When the fire element absorbs, it's like late at night on the dark of the moon if you have a campfire and you throw a log in and these little sparks go up and then die out. It's all these little sparks that become less and less. The sound is a loud crackling, like somebody crumpling paper by your ear. When the air element absorbs, it's almost like, how to describe that sound? It's like a sound of wind, a whooshing. You hear the elements, the sound of the elements, and there are retreats you can do with the elements to bring forth certain cities that involve working with these sounds and the sounds of the elements. But here you hear them automatically, not from working with a retreat. The visual is like clear, if you ever looked at the sky at dawn when it's neither blue nor white from a high altitude, before the sun comes up, that color. And it's sort of everywhere. At this point, these sensations are caused by the elements withdrawing from your channels. At this point, as the space element withdraws, you end up encapsulated in the heart chakra. At this point, breath has ceased. There is still a slight pulse. Usually breath stops before the heart. If you ever watch someone die who's on a breathing and heart monitor, you can see it on the machines. They've stopped breathing, but the heartbeat and the electric impulses go on for quite a while. You can feel the carotid pulse. In fact, if you push on the carotid pulse at this time just right, if you're trained in how to do this, you can force the person's chi into the central channel, and then they'd have to depart through the top of the head, which is an excellent rebirth at least once. So if you get some weird guy who's like done a lot of bad shit, and you can manage to help them this way, if you know how. And what it is you feel for the pulsing of the two carotid arteries, here and here, and you press them firmly, but not so firmly as to cause harm. Don't bruise them. Just press them quite firmly until they stop pulsing. This blocks the chi returning into the side channels. The chi is going to stay encapsulated here until the complete pulsating of the heart and nervous system is finished. After the breath stops, as short a time as it takes to eat a meal, to as long as 10, 20 days. 10 days, maybe. 3 days is not uncommon for a yogi. Most people who are not practiced in this, they don't know how to hold there in Tudam. To hold in Tudam, what you have to do at this point, as you get that clear vision of the space element absorbing. Gilly, can you bring me my cough syrup? Pardon me, cold. I shan't embrace any of you. So, I'm trying to slow down here. You enter into what is called the first bardo, the bardo of clear light. You know when you start seeing the sparks from fire, you're getting close. And as you move into the air element, it's going to segue from the air element to the space element. And that clear light in which you're in a place looking at it disperses. Placeness disperses. You're no longer in a place. You're no longer separate from it. You open up and merge with it. If you permit this to occur without scrabbling to maintain a locale, you are enlightened in the first bardo. You go right through there. The signs of this having occurred is that the person will not rot. Morbid lividity and rigor mortis will not occur for a number of days. Sitting Tudam, Westerners have done it. Annapurna was her name. Western student of my teacher, Wangdo Rinpoche, a little hippie up in Marin. Excuse me. Sat Tudam for about 3-4 days after they found her. They don't know how long she was in Tudam before they found her. Just sitting in her meditation seat, dead, but not rotting. No morbid lividity, no rigor mortis, not breathing. I'm sorry, my dose wore off. If you're trained in Chogchen or Dzogchen, that's your best bet. Going out in the first bardo. Just don't fight it. You're automatically at this point, as the space element dissolves, going to lose placeness. That's the stage of one taste that everybody tries to get to in Mahamudra. Well, here it's going to happen. Will thee or nil thee. If you fight it, it's not going to last as long. You will be able to recoalesce yourself at some point. If you don't fight it, if you go, yeah, cool, this is the Tawa my teacher showed me. And just chin up, tits to the wind, yay! And let yourself dissolve into space at this point. You're out. You're free. You're everywhere and nowhere. Among all the Buddhas of the 4 times. Pardon me. We're going to take a 5-minute break. I have to have a good cough. This is unfortunate. Can you? Yeah. Sorry, guys. Okay, one mystery left. Yes. Okay. The next thing that happens is very interesting. You get a really cool Dharma or bardo, a really cool gap here. You stay there as long as comfortable, but it's single-sided. It is the space element. It is emptiness, dharmakaya nature of mind. It does not have the activity of nirmanakaya nature of mind occurring in this experience. So that's going to come back. Now, if you have let go of your locale at a point in time and space, then I cannot explain to you in words what coming back will feel like, but it won't hurt. Coming back as an enlightened bodhisattva it's different. You're not in a place. It's not singular or multiple. Since we can't talk about that because it doesn't fit into words, what we can do is talk about all the edges of that do fit into words. Edge is a euphemism. So in this bardo, you wake up as who you were, but with all your sense organs intact. So if you were old, blind, and deaf when you died, you wake up being able to see and hear. Your body is like it was in its prime. You don't have the, pain in the knees and the stiff back and the yada yada that you get by the time you're this old. You wake up with a prime level body, and you're right there where you lived in your life, only nobody can see you. The thing is, you don't have a channel pattern. It hasn't reformed yet. Your karma is held in your channel pattern. This is a gap. You have the feeling of being an entity, but you don't have your hang-ups on yet. You will put them back on. It's inevitable. But right here, you've got a gap without any of your hang-ups. It's an open period. It lasts. It's really hard to say how long it lasts. A meal, a day, varies. But during this period, your karma will not affect you. So if you manage to think, oh yeah, I want to go to a Pure Land, you can go there. You have the superpowers of a siddha to go anywhere you want, to be anywhere you want, and none of it's real and all of it's real, and you can actually do that there without any negative karma holding you back. But that's not going to last. So it's a really quick period. Mostly people try to talk to their kin that are crying and grieving and say, look, I'm okay. I mean, I know I'm dead. Yeah, oh, crap, I'm dead. But, that, and go through all that stuff. Don't bother. It's not going to work. Instead, have a plan before you die. What you're going to do in this second bardo. This clear of karma bardo. This bardo where you have a location, a here and now. So you seem to be existing as an entity, but your personality isn't solid. Nothing's solid. So you do have choices. If you have a previous plan and you remember it, do it. So what could be a plan? Dewa Chen for Tibetans is a common plan. Other people who are rather attached to there being two separate genders, which there aren't in Dewa Chen, prefer Guru Rinpoche's Pure Land, where there are two separate genders. Other people, there are so many Pure Lands of so many different kinds. I will recommend that you read up on it. Start with Google and explore books and teachings on the different Pure Lands. See what is recorded out there, what is written out there about the Tibetan Pure Lands, even if you're reading someone's PhD thesis. Salt those. Take those with a grain of salt, but there is sometimes some interesting information in them. Or at least a good giggle. What you want to do is have a plan for that bardo while you're alive. So in the first bardo, when I realize I'm dead and I have magic powers, I'm going to have this one chance to go to any next life I want. What is it going to be? Remember, you're not that good at details. So if you say, I'm going to be a rich man with a really cruel father, do you remember to ask for not only rich, but nice parents in a culture that I mean, you're not going to remember everything. Safest to go for an already created Pure Land rather than trying to make your own. So check out the ones that have already been created by the assortment of bodhisattvas who have built them. And in this bardo, grab one. Does that make sense? Do you understand how to work with the first two bardos? I'm going to stop, take any questions on, just clarify what to do. Yes?
So in the first bardo, you get the power to move to the Pure Land.
Second bardo. In the first bardo, you have the opportunity to dissolve into all and everything. In the Christian sense, to become one with God. We don't see it that way, but if you were raised Christian, those who really believe that, what they mean by that. That's the first bardo. You just have to let go of trying to maintain yourself as an individual entity. That's how you resist it. If you can't do that, the second bardo, you can go to a heaven, a Pure Land, which is not like the Christian heaven. You go for as long as you want to be there. You can leave when you want if you want to go and help people with whom you have karmic commitments on earth. You can come down and be a hero or something. You won't remember while you're down here all of it. Pieces. And you'll always be wondering, what the fuck is that memory? But you can from the Pure Lands. You're not locked in. There are certain circumstances in which you could be locked in Dewa Chen. If you're like Trump and really caused a lot of harm to people, like just hurt a lot of people and families. That's even though it's not on you in the moment, it's going to follow you. It's like a bird flies in the sky, it has no shadow. But when it lands on earth, it comes back together with its shadow. So your karma is going to follow you around, even though it's not in you in the second bardo. So sometimes the only bardo you can get into is Dewa Chen. And they have safety places there where they nurture you until you get over the scared little boy that made him hurt all those people. Does that make sense to you? I'm giving a politician we all imagine, although none of us know him personally. But you could imagine there's got to be a scared little boy in there. And you read about what his father was like, and you sort of get it. So Dewa Chen has healing places. They don't let you out until you're healed of those healing places. They're in the form of lotuses. They're almost like wombs. They're really lovely, and you like them. You don't try to get out. You wouldn't want to get out of that. It's too nice. It's like on a really cold day, you don't want to get out of the hot bathtub. So there are Pure Lands that have these safeties for people who know that they're being followed by a shit ton of negative karma. Because you're without the compulsion to hurt others that you may have had in life in that period. Your personality is not completely on you, and yet you identify as yourself. It's in between the reformation of your dream body, rainbow body, channel body. That makes sense? Other questions on the first two bardos? Yes.
If you really don't know which Pure Land is best for you, you put out an intention just to go to the one that works best, or
it's really good to have a plan. It's easy to get lost out there. So if you don't know what's best, Tibetans generally recommend Dewa Chen because you can visit the others from there. So unless you have a different preference, that's basically considered works for everybody insurance. So you might want to develop that insurance policy. Most Tibetans will recite Omami Dewa Hri a few times every day just to make sure they remember it in that bardo, because it's the key for Dewa Chen. Actually, Shri is the key. The key to Dewa Chen is a visualization of light beyond compare and the seed syllable sound Shri. So if you remember that, which you will from Om Ami Dewa Shri, O incomparable light Shri, or form created by incomparable light Shri, there's your key, you're in. So if you don't have a choice, take that one. Memorize the mantras so that if you find yourself dead and standing there looking down at the corpse, oh yeah, Lama Lena told me this was going to happen. Om Ami Dewa Shri. And from there you can base. You can go other places and do other things. It's a nice place to base out of. Very low conflict. Other questions on the first two bardos?
I was wondering about when the air element dissolves into the space element, that leads directly to the first bardo. So
yes.
The vision that you're having.
When the space element dissolves, when the air element dissolves into the space element, you see that clear dawn sky color.
Right.
But you see it because space hasn't dissolved yet. There is space between you and it. There is location. There is time. Time-space continuum still going on for you. When that dissolves, space can't stand without time. Time can't stand without space. So when the space-time continuum dissolves, which is called the dissolving of the space element, you remain not you. You don't remain. You automatically dissolve into as that dawn. If you do not resist it and scrabble to recoalesce as in a here and now, don't grab for a here and now, due to habit and accustomedness to it, you can stay there for a long time. Time is, of course, quite irrelevant there. A long time and a little time doesn't feel different. Make sense?
Yeah. So the air, when the fire element dissolves into the air element, you'll hear the whooshing. You'll see.
When the fire element dissolves into the air element, you'll hear crackling and see sparks.
Yes. When the air is dissolving in space, you're hearing the whooshing.
You hear a whooshing that slowly gets quieter or opener. Like the whoosh is air moving past something, right?
Yeah.
The air is still there, but there's nothing to move past. So it slowly becomes the silent whooshing of moving air with no friction of matter to move past. You sort of feel how this is going to go. And then you also lose your material sense of being in a place in a here and now. Questions on the first two bardos? One more.
So the Om Mami Dewa 3.
Om Ami Dewa 3.
I'm sorry.
Ami, A-M-I, Dewa, D-E-W-A, Hri, H-R-I.
Say D-H-R-H-H.
No, Dewa, D-E-W-A, Hri, H-R-I.
Okay. And that chant will get you into Dewa chant.
That chant, you have to see the meaning of it while you chant it. Incomparable light. Hri is the key, the sound of Hri. But the feeling of light beyond compare, vitality, light, the aliveness, the light of aliveness beyond compare is what's going to pull you there. It's a good practice because even if you get squished suddenly, like drive-by shooting and the bullet is addressed to occupant this space and you're in it, happens. So you don't have time to go through all the fancy stuff, but you will have that moment of waking up and looking around and seeing your corpse. At that point, Omami Dewa Hri, head for the light. First two bardos, one more.
Do all the yams have pure lands associated with them?
Yes.
Okay. So if you practice your yam in that moment, you would.
Yes, although you should actually have an idea of your yidam's pure land, of what it would be, so you can actually choose to aim for it. Visualize its symbols. There's a time later on in the bardo that your yidam will pick you up if you miss this, if you're a tantrika. But not everybody's a tantrika. You are. So your yidam will pick you up in one of the bardos. The third bardo, it's going to get more complex now. Third bardo is the bardo of the diani Buddhas. How many of you have done working with emotions? So I've taught you that pattern, the pattern of the 5 diani Buddhas. It's the pattern used in initiation. It's the basic Homo sapien mandala. In this case, you start seeing them as visions, but it's not just seeing visually. You hear them, smell them, taste them, and feel them as feeling. It's like a shimmer of color, a roar, a feel. We start with the central blue, which is the skandha of consciousness. What's happening here is a reforming of a dream body, a bardo body, a channel body. There was a time when you just didn't have channels or anything. You're just a floating concept of me, but nothing to stick to. That's not going to last. So here's where, as you reform, there's sensations you're going to have. And the first is space, consciousness, blue. This relates. You're going to see an incredible blue-white color. In some mandalas, they call it blue. In some, they call it white. It's actually, what color is the sky? Is it blue or is it white? What color is water? Is it blue or is it white? What color is wind? Some people say blue, some people say white. It's the color of wind. It's the color of sky. It is utterly intense, bright, brilliant. The feeling of, this is, again, space reforming. So it's a feeling of spaciousness and solidity, spaciousness becoming solidity. This can be so solid, it's terrifying. The absolute Vajra. Don't run. Don't run from the intensity. Don't run from the emotion of overwhelmedness. Don't run to the soft white light of the gods that looks cozy and safe. All through this bardo of the Dhyani Buddhas, leap. As you coalesce into an entity, leap into the intensity of these sensations. As the God realms arise, leap into the brilliant, bottomless density of the blue of the sky at high altitude. Do not go hide in the soft, misty white light. Once space forms, water begins to form, white in color, clear, transparent white. You will feel terror and anger as loud as you can. Don't fight the intensity in working with emotions, which is the next big retreat we're doing in this Gompa, to which you're all welcome. It works the same mandala, which are the elements of which we're made. You will, in this Tibetan, see certain figures. You may or may not. If you're a Tantrika, you will. You'll see the Diani Buddhas as described. So in the space one, you'll see Virajana with the four heads facing the four directions, blue in color. However, if you're not a Tantrika, you'll just see overwhelming, brilliant light and color, and yes, it has shape. But what you, who is not studied Tantra, projects on those shapes is entirely up to you. Looney Tunes, anybody? I used to get Daffy Duck in the beginning. So Tantric is symbols, and it's a way of making sense of this. But if you're not trained in it, you may not see those particular images. There may be, you may interpret what you see, which is bright shapes, colors, moving, intense fear, anger, loud, flavor, bitter, sweet, smell, wonder, incense, dog shit, everything all together so much, overwhelmingly. Like, you know you're about to fizz if you're autistic. Anybody know that one? Just before a fizz, you know it's coming? Like that. Right before you start flapping. That moment. Don't pull back. Don't follow your training and try to appear normie. This is for you Audis out there. Go for it. Go ahead. Let it take you. Let the fizz take you. Let the overwhelmedness take you. Do you see why this bardo is harder than the other ones? You don't want to do that. Every time I try to teach you to work with emotions, you want to get rid of the bad emotions, not accept them. If you actually succeed at working with emotions and you can accept the emotions, then you'll manage this fine in the bardo of the Dhyani Buddhas. You will accept the intensity of the sensations. But if you have not yet managed that, well, keep working. So we go again around the mandala. We start with the center, and then white, which is east on the bottom, which is Vajra family, which is fear and anger, water element, becoming, forming. Then we have the yellow element of earth forming, solidity, pride, certainty. The emotions are going to be a combination of pride and avarice in that side. The red element of fire reforms, solidifies. Desire, perception is reforming. You're reforming your skandhas, is what's going on here. But how you experience it is going to be intense sensations of all the six senses, each to its specific color and emotional sensation. Green of air, the Asura realm, the pale green, khaki green, sage green. There's a reason khaki green is so popular with militaries. It's a mindset, Asura. You go through it. You feel it. You've got to accept these. There's a story of Rahula, Buddha's son. He had a son before he left, who was named Rahula, and there's many stories of Rahula, but there is one story of Rahula in one or another of his lives where he had a teacher who was teaching him Dzogchen. And the teacher had two students, and he was teaching them Dzogchen, Rahula and another guy. And the teacher's teaching was to behave spontaneously, to relate spontaneously to all occurrence, which is a Dzogchen teaching. Some of you probably heard it when I'm teaching you full-on Dzogchen. So the first student figures he should go off and relate spontaneously to all of his internal and external occurrences. So he kind of just lets them run and sits there with them and watches them and spontaneously does that and enters the flow. Rahula goes and starts a whorehouse spontaneously, he thinks, and he starts doing all this shit that he maybe wanted to do out of the 5 poisons, pride and jealousy and desire and all of these things. And so the students come back together again after a number of years, 10, 20 years, and discuss it, and they're both shocked at the other's take on it. So they decide to go to their teacher and ask. So the teacher says, yeah, the first student was right. And Rahula gets so upset that he was wrong and put all this effort into this wrong practice that he kills the teacher, so no one will know, and the other student. So they're fine. They're off enlightened. But Rahula's their friend, so they're going to have to come back for him. So there's a whole bunch of other stories about that. So understand that this spontaneous way of being is a spontaneous way of being with yourself, with your impulses, not spontaneously pursuing them to release them, accepting the feelings of desire, the feelings of avarice, the feelings of fear, anger, of lust, of jealousy, accepting that's part of you and not fighting it. Hard one, isn't it? Work on it. Because accepting it when it all seems to be happening is the only way through this bardo. After that, they all arise together. All the 5 diani Buddhas dancing, all the intensities at once. If you couldn't take them one at a time, how are you going to take them all together? Practice working with emotions here. With all your physical sensations, including touch, which has pain and pleasure. Remember to strip the underwear off the feelings, which is the label. And I have a question from out there that is, in many people seem to see deceased relatives. People may well interpret these experiences in one way or another. If you believe in your religion that a certain thing's going to happen, you will probably interpret these sensations as those things. People haven't gotten that far in death to get to the monkey's paw part. You experience your deceased relatives and it's all wonderful, but then they change. Things happen. Shifts. Only the ones that come back and tell you about it didn't go all the way. They never went past the pulsing. They're just at the beginning, probably, of the visions. So now you've seen the third bardo, the diani Buddhas. Next is the one that's going to work really well for all the tantrikas. This is where the 42 peaceful yidams arise. They arise in their families again, the pattern of the Diani Buddhas. So the lotus ones arise, the Vajra ones arise, the jewel family arises, the adamantine affective family, the karma family arises, the space family arises. They arise in the same order that the Diani Buddhas arose. So center, space. But this is the 51, no, I'm sorry. This is the 42 peaceful deities that reside in the heart. This is the heart channels. They're re-inflating. When you look down those channels, you see shapes which you can interpret. Okay, for those of you practicing Togel, when you look down those heart channels, which is what you're doing in Togel, you will see shapes which are easily interpreted as the archetypes. Those are codified Tibetan mnemonics for remembering the nature of the energies. So yeah, you get to see your yidam here. When you recognize your yidam, just, hey, let's go home, man. Just reach. Get me out of here. So for those of you who are tantric and are practicing, say, Tara, Chenrezig, Kurukuli, it would be among the peaceful ones. For those of you who are tantric and are practicing Purba, Hayagriva, some of the others, it'll be around among the fierce ones. These will arise with complex visions. They're in tiglis, surrounded by tiglis, discs, things that look like flapping etab cloth. These are all things you see in Togel. I don't know how many of you who I've taught it to are in here, but anyway, that's how it's going to work. Togel is all about this bardo and experiencing it while alive in order to form rainbow body. This is the experience of your rainbow body reforming, that particular body. Your heart chakras, filaments, reach out. And then your speech ones, half wrathful, half peaceful, reach out. And then your fierce ones from the form chakra, brain chakras, reach out. And then you have a full rainbow body again. You have a rainbow body right now. If you think rainbow body is something that people attain, you know damn well in the first teaching on impermanence, in Lodar Namji, the Four Turning Mind, that any goddamn thing you attain, you're going to lose. As a beginning, it's going to end. So you think you're going to get rainbow body? Nuh-uh. You got rainbow body. It's already there. It is just confused and occluded by your habit of matter. So if you form and focus enough on rainbow body during Togel practice, and yes, it takes a long time, and no, you just can't do it sometimes when you feel like it, that won't work. You got to go obsessive compulsive on it. These are all part of it. What you see in this bardo is what you're going to see in Togel. So this is the bardo of the yidams, of the peaceful and fierce archetypes. Questions on this bardo? Is mostly a way out for tantrikas. If you're not a tantrika, if you're not practicing tantra or Togel, you're probably not going to spot it here. It gets harder, you see. You probably ought to try for the first one, because they don't get easier, they get harder to recognize as you go along. The intensity of this one is just as intense as the Diani Buddhas, but it's got more shapes and more forms in it. Lots of shapes and forms. Discs, flapping cloths, things that look like etab silk moving. And then you enter the bardo of becoming. You start out there with the body that you had last time in its prime, your basic dream body. You rarely dream that you're old and decrepit, even if you're old and decrepit. You usually dream in vaguely your prime, or you don't even notice. But, the stuff that usually hurts in daily life does not usually hurt when you're asleep dreaming, right, guys? There's a few of you my age who's going to remember that if they remember their dreams. So you turn up, again in your prime. But this is the bardo of becoming. You keep dying and getting born in this bardo, or changing shape. You become something else. You start out as who you were, but you become who you're going to be next time. Karma is totally on you here. There isn't a clear way out of the bardo of becoming other than taking refuge in your guru, in your yidam, in the Dharma. Once you're in the bardo of becoming, you are pretty much going to get reborn. There are better and worse circumstances, but you're on the karma you already made. I don't remember any ways out from there, but there probably is, checking a reference. Yeah, your habit patterns are back on you, so you're going to see things according to how you always saw things starting out in life. So if you were an optimist, you're going to be an optimist and probably get a nice rebirth, because you're going to naturally assume. If you were a pessimist, if you were paranoid, all this stuff is back on you. If you were depressed, you're wearing it again. Depression will tend to cause an unfortunate rebirth, which is why you should fix it while you're alive. Take your meds, guys. And do the practice for it. They work together synergistically. Here, about the only way out is dream yoga. If you were good at becoming lucid in your dreams, you can recognize here you're in the bardo. If you recognize you're in the bardo, complete with all your tendencies, you can kind of sort of steer. Saying kind of sort of because you're not going to remember all the details. But it's like steering a dream. When you get lucid in a dream and you can sort of make it go the way you want, like to get teachings from Guru Rinpoche, except you get distracted talking to a dog. You know how that happens? So that's what's going to be happening here. It depends. If you're quite good at dream yoga, that's the talent that you would use in the bardo of becoming. Because that's what your dreams are an experience of. You keep becoming someone else in your dream. You start out here, you go through changes, you become that, and then things happen. It doesn't always make sense. So the key to that is lucid dreaming, bardo of becoming. You're going to have to wake up and know where you are. Or one of your friends has to tell you. Sometimes people telling you where you are, who are, scanning and sitting with the corpse and, seeing to the stuff. Usually you get into the bardo of becoming within about a week. And you're usually in there for a couple of weeks. It's rarely 49 days. That's the outside. It would be unusual to stay a full 49 days in there. I just remember it as being very windy, and I quite liked it. Hence human. The key to all of these is the same key to daily life. Accept the moment as it is, without attempting to fix it. Keep it. Maintain anything. There is enjoyment possible in each moment, even a head cold. Train yourself using the tool of mindfulness, simply to remember to do the practice, in any of the methods that will help you here. Questions on the bardos here. And bardo of becoming is the one most similar to dream time. Every night you go through these to get into dream time, through all these bardos. But it's so fast you don't always spot it. If you can go to sleep slowly without it giving you insomnia, it'll work. Questions?
So in the third bardo, when the channel body is reforming, that's happening in the opposite order as it dissolving during death, right? So space to air to fire.
When the channel body reforms, that's here in the 5 families. Yes, they will occur space, water, earth, fire, air. It's not exactly the opposite. It would be nice if it all fit into these nice grids.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, experience rarely does.
So if you practice Dzogchen, the first bardo is when you want to practice just letting go.
Yeah.
See the clear light.
Yep.
Dissonant.
Yep. That's the Dzogchen practice. After that, you practice working with emotions, which is part of Dzogchen, but it's a doing part. It's not the completion stage. And after that, you practice Tantra. And after that, you practice Dream Yoga. Togel will get you really familiar with the bardo of the idioms, 42 peaceful, 51 fierce. But that's not what Togel's for. That's a side effect.
One question that the internet has is, what is the purpose of POA in relation to these other practices?
Same purposes of squishing the side channels here, getting them to go out the top of their head. There's methods that can be done if you can get your hands on them in the moment. And there's methods that can be done from a greater distance, like across the room or over the phone or just in another place. POA is from a greater distance. They can also do POA for themselves. That's a really good retreat, and eventually I'm going to get a teacher out here who is well trained in it. I've done it but I'm not comfortable teaching it. I'd love to get Kandroma out here, Chaktu Kandro, because Po is one of her really good strong points. But we'll see. She's my age or old. She's older than me, so I don't know if she's traveling anymore.
Another question is, once you've entered the bardos, can you lead or assist others or help people while you're there?
You're not going to see others much until the bardo of becoming. And then you're going to see those who share the realm karma that you do. So you're kind of in it together, like you're not going to see the ghost realm people if you're a god. You just won't pass them or interact with them. You're not in the same dimension. Now, there are people who work with the dead and the dying, midwives, for death, not for birth. Death doulas. Some of them are actually trained at going out into the bardo with people. That's a hard job, and it will shorten your life. Most psychic work will. Uses a lot of life force to do this stuff. I don't know anyone who died of old age in old age who did that work of helping people cross. It shortens the lifespan. But then for bodhisattvas, who gives a shit? I mean, they don't. You're going to die anyway, guys. So, now, later, whatever.
Another viewer asks, I'm at my mom's deathbed right now. She has had a hard time accepting her impending death. She thinks it is complete annihilation and is panicking. How do I support her?
You simply tell her, look, you were there before you were born. You've seen babies. You've had babies. There's already someone in there when you get them, wasn't there? There will still be someone there after you die. The idea is to have the best possible experience of it, and to do that, you're going to have to relax and accept this stage. Then, depending on your mom's character, death is actually extremely enjoyable when you let go and do it. I will say it's better than any morphine rush I've ever seen. Any orgasm, anything like that, where you lose yourself for a moment, whether in a drug or an orgasm or something, death is even better. So it's way fun. But you can't do it too often. It's like some drugs that are cumulative poisons, and you can't do them too often, even though they're way fun. Depending on your mom's character, there was a Lama once. Really good Lama. I mean, good meditator, good everything, but he really loved his tea. His rich, buttery, salty dark Tibetan tea. And as he was dying, his teacher was with him, and he could see that he just couldn't let go. And the teacher whispers in his ear, they put the kettle on in Dewa Chen. They're making tea. You better get there before it's all gone. So depending on your mother's character will depend on what you can say to her. But everybody dies, and everybody's been born. And any mother who's had more than one kid knows that there's somebody in the goddamn baby when you get it. And they're not the same as the other baby that you got. There's already a person in there. If you have ever had much to do with babies, this is extremely noticeable. Remind your mother of that. Best I can give on that one.
Okay. There's also a related question. Namely, can I do anything helpful for the dying as a hospice chaplain or working in the emergency room, especially for Christians or non practitioners?
Encourage them to go forward with enthusiasm and without fear in whatever context works. Do not warm their feet at the end. Encourage them to let go of their petty stuff. If they have a religion, encourage them to reach for their God or Yidam, whatever it may be. That's going to do them better than scrabbling around on their own, except for very certain personalities who would just prefer to scrabble around on their own, and then you got to let them do that. My dad was like that. Very determined to scrabble around on his own.
Are there practices that someone like a death doula or hospice worker can do to recharge their life force?
Yes. Ask me again when there's time to teach them to you. There's several. But the simplest one is meditate Dzogchen playfully and with humor. And I want to, before we have to end, which will be in about 20 minutes, I want to take you through the dream. Would you all please lie down comfortably in the position you normally sleep in, or to be optimal on your right side in the Buddhist position, making padding out of your cushions and spreading out as needed. And if someone has trouble getting onto the floor or needs more padding, would people please support each other? Nyando, have you tested that the drum transmits?
I've got my microphone pointing.
Okay, I want you to play the drum and test. Testing. Okay. Now ask out there.
Okay.
Audience out online, did you hear the drum?
Okay. I'm getting, yes, we can hear, but it's soft. I was going fairly softly.
Okay, we'll be fine.
All right.
Do we have enough room? Come on up here by me. There's a lot of room up here.
Yeah, there's space also over here for.
It would. The preference for channels when you're actually dying is to lie on your right side in the sleeping Buddha position. Usually there's a hand like here, not here, but here. So it doesn't have to be there. It can be here. I think Rinpoche's was out here. So as you like it. But if you need to be on your back for your comfort or your spine or for whatever reason, go ahead. This is more you need to be comfortable and able to let go. If you need to put a scarf or something over your eyes, do so. Whatever helps. Okay, we're going to start a traditional Lakota drum beat. Feel it, follow it. I am going to guide you with my voice in what is called a dreamscape. Some people call them guided meditations. It's a guided daydream fantasy, which, when combined with this particular drum beat, should assist you in remembering it on a fairly deep level. That is the purpose of this. Nyando, begin. Feel the heaviness of your body. Slowly growing heavier. The silent sound of the earth's groan in a deep cave. The slow song of the rocks at the base of the mountain. The earth element dissolves into the water element. Dryness of your mouth. Dry like a desert. The shimmering sound of a continuous flush. The image looking out at the sun from behind a waterfall, sparkling, shimmering. Thinning. The sun sets, darkening. Your feet are cold. The cooling creeps up your shins. Don't mind it. Don't try to fix it. Let it come. You know what's going on. This is death. It is time for death. Wee-ha, we get the chance on this now. Been waiting a while, haven't we? Let the cold come. It's not unpleasant. The sparks vanishing into darkness. Many and less, and just a few, and one or two. The crackling fades into the sound of the wind in the trees, rustling, whooshing. The urge to breathe is gone. The in-breaths occur, but the out-breaths are longer and fuller. Easy to rest at the end of the out-breath. Resting as the air element absorbs. The darkness dawns into a luminous clarity, like the sky before dawn at first light. At high altitude, is it blue? Is it white? Clear and transparent. Look at it. Infinite and open sky-like nature of mind. Recognize your own mind. Relax, for naturally your sense of spatial location of occupying the time-space continuum as a here and now will dissipate here. Let it go. Don't grab, don't scrabble, don't try to keep it. Let it go with a ah. Here in the essence of Dharmakaya, nature of mind. Relax into the pure Dzogchen, which needs no effort. Just as it is, as it always was. Timeless eternity. Spaceless infinity. You are encapsulated as a seed. This is the moment of the bardo before death. Recognize it and do not strive. Let go. Allow the spontaneous occurrence of the rest of the visions to occur as they will or not, without preference or grasping or shoving. This is the relaxation of Dzogchen. A shimmer, a feeling. Oh, I? Not a location, but I. A thought, stirring in eternity, stirring in infinity. The blue space, without limits. Adamantine and open. Do not here grab a location. Do not here try to touch a thing, be a thing, do a thing. Do not here try to, don't do a thing, don't touch a thing. Let go. Leave it be. Relax. Let yourself be, allow it to be as it is. Do not chase the solidity of the soft, fuzzy, warm, white light, which you will think of as God, which will look like God and angels to you, which will sing to you pretty songs. Do not run from the no thing, the adamantine, loud. Spaciousness. From the skanda of consciousness, the skanda of form occurs. Element of water, white in color. Now the sensations of want and don't want, like and don't like, hope and fear, they start to swirl within you. Hate, desire, love, all of it arising. Fear and anger predominate. The white color, the form, there are shapes. As the shapes form, you will either fear them, for they look so pointy. Be angry at them, want to fight back, protect yourself. Relax, let go. Let form occur without resistance. The element of water forms, there is moisture. There are feelings occurring. Don't mind them. Don't reject feeling anger. Don't act on it. Don't try to grasp it. Don't try to make it go away. Fear the same. Just relax. Understand that you are in the bardo of the Diani Buddhas, and you will experience the 5 families in all their elements and experience, and you will know them, and you will recognize them, and you will be them. Permit this to occur as you reform. The white of fear and anger gives way to the yellow. Feelings, pride, I am. This is where the feeling of I am, I want to be, I am this, I am that, self-description arises. Don't grab that. Don't go after the soft blue light. Go for the intensity. Go head first into the intensity. Accept the intensity. Don't try to change the intensity. Don't try to fix the intensity. Accept. Be. From feelings to perception. Stuff. The ghost realm. Not enough stuff, not enough this, not enough that, wandering around, the sense of poverty, the sense of want. Don't go for the dim blue light. Accept the intensity of the richness of the infinite texture of every leaf in every tree, on every plant, in the whole wide world, on every planet in this galaxy and all the galaxies of the local group, and the group in which the local group orbits the still point. You see? It's big. Accept the complexity. Don't grab it. Don't try to rub it all over yourself or eat it. Don't shove it away. Don't fear it. Go for the brilliant sensation. Leap into the center. Accept. Here, concept arises. It's intelligent. You're going to talk to yourself. That discourse, that little voice is coming back. Let it. Don't pay it. No, never mind. Don't try to make it shut up. Oh, yes, it was so peaceful in the first bardo when I wasn't. And now I am, and I'm telling myself I am. Don't try to make the voice shut up. You need to eat samsara as the sauce on your nirvana. To accept the emptiness of nirvana as the plate or the toast on which the sauce of your samsara was served. All of it now, it dances, all the feelings at once. Every sensation, every sound, taste, texture, running through you as you. Do you remember how Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree and watched the dance of Mara's sons and daughters and did not run away from the threats of Mara's sons and was not seduced by Mara's daughter's beauty? This is what you must do here. The essence of equanimity. Permit, allow. Now your scandals are formed, your energy body needs to form. Your energy channels occur. The 5 families again, same order. But now with the 42 peaceful yidams dancing, and each one arises with all the symbols of its consorts and its bodhisattvas and its guardians and its dakinis, each one symbolizing a certain aspect, too many to count, too many to enumerate. Let them dance. Do not run away. Recognize your yidam, your brother, your mother, your father. Recognize Tara and Chenrezig. Recognize the peaceful ones, Golden Manjushri. Recognize the man, do not run. Do not grab. And the tiglies and the discs and the flapping claws, and however you will interpret your visions of this time. You will see shapes, experience sound and color. It will come at you. Do not run from it. Give it a hug. It's your mama. Do not go for the simple, uncomplex, dim light off in the corner. Looks safe. That is an illusion of safety. It's dangerous. Don't be fooled. Do not run from the clear adamantine brilliance. Now the half fierce, half wrathful, the archetypes of communication arise. Kurukuli is here. Some of the Manjushris. Others. Let them dance within and without you. Allow your channels to form cleanly from the throat chakra. Now the 51 fierce archetypes. Haruka, Purva, Hayagriva, Dimtsok, and all of these dance. And you form back with your channel body, which holds your karma, which is also your rainbow body. And if in this bardo you have not resisted, your rainbow body will shine forth at this moment. If you have not run into the dim light, if you have accepted the full intensity of the reforming of channels just as they are and not tried to control it, to muck about with it, to poke at it, it will reform as rainbow body and you will be enlightened. If you merge with any one of these yidams, allowing it to overtake you, to become you, to be you, which is easy for tantrikas because they know them so well. Those of you who are not tantric, do not practice tantric, this bardo will be hard for you because it will not coalesce into known symbols. So what you will see is bright monsters. Maybe Darth Vader, I don't know what you will see. You will project your own ideas of bright monsters too much, too big, too loud, onto these forms. Whereas if you were trained in Tantra, you will project the traditional symbols onto them, recognize them by that, and go home to your own true nature of rainbow body. But if this doesn't happen, the bardo of becoming will arise. Again, you will be standing there in a body in a place, like a person, but it's a dream body. So it's not tied down to a place. You can go to any place. When you have bad lung, that feeling of being floating and unattached kind of feels like that. Some people like it. So floating and unattached. Each time being born, dying. Each realm, the God realms, with the attraction of their beauty. The Asura realms with the sharp, competitive intelligence that some love to take form in. You like adventure novels? That's Asura realm. The human realm, with its gray folks just trying to get by. But also its opportunities to learn without the distraction of the competition and having to win first of the Asuras or the joy and bliss of the gods. The animal realm, dull and simple. You don't like new stuff. Cats hate change. Dogs don't like it much either. Most animals do not like change. You don't like change. Your animal nature wants it all to stay the same and steady, even though you'd be bored sick with it. Pretas, with their lack, the sense of poverty, the never enough. The hell beings, with their fear and anger. If you fall in there, you fall into the receiving hells, where there you are, born, fully grown, fully armed, you find yourself with appropriate weapons. And coming towards you are others with the same weapons, equivalent weapons, swords and swords, guns and guns, archery and archery, whichever your habit of weapons. Spaceship against spaceship, if that's the fiction you've been reading. Shoot 'em ups. And you shoot back because who wouldn't? In fear and anger to save yourself. There's a way out even if you find yourself there. Stop, put your gun down. Stand there and let them kill you. Except it all feels real, you forget you're dreaming. It's hard to do that. And so you take rebirth in any one of the realms. And you are born again. And you live a life as a something. And you die another death, and you do it again and again. Learn these patterns. Learn the way out. Each of these bardos has a way out. Practice it in this life. whether you choose to practice the symbolism of the transformation of Tantra, the understanding of Sutra, or the recognition of Dzogchen. Become familiar with the process. Slowly come back. Hopefully, this method will cause you to remember the process, although I also had you take notes the first time. Now is when you get to go find a comfortable place and do this again and again without using the drum. Now, who has my Tibetan Book of the Dead, which passed around and did not come back? Molly, we need to pack up stuff, right? That's the way I thought it was going to work. Okay, Gilly, do you want to be around this afternoon with custody of the book so people can read it in the garden? You're all welcome to spread yourself about in the garden. The mosquitoes aren't really up yet, so it's a good time for this. And just lie there and practice in your mind. Go through it again and again. Tantrikas, I want you to read especially about the symbolism. If you're not tantric, it's not going to be that useful. I've written all over it, but read the introduction by Trungpa. It's really quite good. And read the commentary. This will give you a lot of information, Tantrikas, about the symbols. They say second day, third day, fourth day. It's not exactly a day. It sort of feels like maybe a day. And you can kind of guess this is what's happening a day after they died, 2 days after they died. But it's all time's funky in this, in the death process. Some people die a lot faster than others. Some people go really slow. Some people, they get the earth element absorbing way before anything else happens, and they're just bedridden for a long time. So I would say we are complete for today. You guys get to practice, and we meet here at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Is that true? And I'll answer the questions that have come up. We may do another dreamscape. If you think that was helpful, just going through it. But mostly I want you to do it on your own, like 10 times before I see you again. That's what's going to teach you. Just do it and do it and do it. If you are financially able, you can pick this up online on Kindle. Quite inexpensive. A copy of the same one. If not, this one will be around with Gilly, who will take charge of it and let people read it this afternoon. Any last questions before we sign off?
When we practice, should we do it same in line on your side?
Yes. It's just probably easier that way. And there's no reason to make this difficult. What you're trying to do is imprint. Any other specific questions? There'll be more after you've practiced this on your own a few times. Gewandi Nyurduda Che Che Sala Go Pashu. May all beings recognize their true nature. Gilly, I'm missing a bag.
Okay.
Bag.
Oh, the bag?
Yeah.
Bag.
Are we complete here?
What did you do with it?
This one?
No, not this one.
Oh, the one for stuff?
Yes. Always leave that